Super Mario Bros. For Atari 2600? This exists, and it's from the same creators of Zippy the Porcupine, also known as Sonic the Hedgehog for Atari 2600. This is Princess Rescue, also known as, hey, we want to sell this as a homebrew cartridge, but Nintendo, please don't sue us. Now I think about it, I think Nintendo sent them a cease and desist anyways. I mean, look at it, this is very obviously Super Mario Bros. But is it worth your time? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's review. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro, and if that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? And it doesn't get much more retro than the Atari. Actually, it does get a bit more retro. But now we're getting to technicalities, aren't we? We're looking at a version of Super Mario Bros. For the Atari, from the creators of that version of Sonic the Hedgehog for the Atari. This is Princess Rescue, and I was very curious to see how this works. Sonic the Hedgehog translates well to the Atari because it only requires one button. Mario, on the other hand, requires two buttons, one to jump and one to run/shoot fireballs. So how well does it translate here? Before we go deep into the controls, let me just say that this game looks fantastic for an Atari game. You probably aren't blown away if you're used to modern games, but keep in mind, this was the Atari 2600. This game was made for a system that came out in 1977. You know what games looked like around 1977 when this system came out? So by comparison, this is really impressive, especially with that somewhat smooth scrolling and with how fluid Mario controls. I mean, which is to say he actually controls. He has very much so start and stop momentum a la Sonic 4, but this is the Atari we're talking about. Just the fact that he's moving around the screen is scrolling is a marvel in general. Controlling Mario at first seems fairly simple. You just press left or right on the joystick to run around, and you press down to duck, and of course the one singular button on the Atari joystick is used for jumping. But how do you dash/use fireballs? You have to hold up, which means it's very difficult using real hardware to run or shoot fireballs while also platforming. This would not be an issue if levels were designed around this, but of the 4 worlds here, yes, 4, this is roughly the same length of Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, some of the later levels absolutely rely on this. If you're not playing on an emulator where you can easily just use arrow keys and hold the up button constantly, then you're going to be having a rough time here. And that's a shame because there's a lot of love and attention here. The Goombas and Koopas look as they should. Yes, power-ups are here, though they couldn't replicate mushrooms, so now just random question mark blocks will give you either a mushroom or a fire flower automatically. And the boss fights are really cool. Instead of your typical Bowser boss fights from Super Mario Bros. 1s, you have these, which are a lot of fun, remind me a bit of the Bowser Jr. boss fights in New Super Mario Bros. They're cool stuff, and it's a shame that this game is being marred by design, like I mentioned, levels here. Like take this one jump right here. If I didn't know that I had to hold up and jump, or if I was using a real joystick, which honestly is rather stiff, you're screwed. You're gonna die. But that's not to say this is a bad game. As I said, the game looks great. Just look at that animated title screen. And it sounds great too, just listen to that. It's not pretty, but it's music. But it's not nearly as fun as Zippy the Porcupine / Sonic for Atari. And I'm not even saying this as a Sonic fan, I'm just saying this as a critic. That's a better platformer. You're better off going off and playing this one because Princess Rescue / Super Mario Bros. For the Atari, while it's technically impressive, once you get past the first couple worlds, it just stops being fun. But you know what, maybe I'm being too critical on this fan-made homebrew. I don't know, it's something you can buy, so maybe this amount of critical look is deserved. I don't know, I'm critical on fan games, what am I talking about? What's your thoughts on this game, even if you've only just seen it now for the first time? Let me know down in the comment section below, and while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to Stuff We Play for more great content like this? Or if you want to go the extra mile, why don't you support us on Patreon? Because every dollar earned from Patreon goes back into the channel itself. So with that, thank you very much for watching, stay classy, and I'll see you next time.